Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Ritchie from Boston. It's the 21st of February. It's 2020. I'm always looking down here because the time and the date is down here, and I screw the date up quite often. At any rate, if you don't subscribe to this channel right here, RFB2, then you won't see the live stream I'm going to have tonight with a retired NSA analyst who's going to come on and explain some stuff to us, which is very important. She's not going to hide her identity, it's not going to be anonymous. So it should be pretty enlightening, unless, of course, something wacky happens and we can't get an internet connection, etc., blah, blah, blah. At any rate, in case you are unaware, on my other YouTube channel, Jailbreak Overlander, I'm doing a giveaway of a beautiful handmade, made in America survival knife. If you were unaware, now you are aware. But this channel also explains things like bugging in, surviving in the cold weather. This is basically my life on video. This is what I do. Search for owls, drive four-wheel drives, and do survival related things. So if you're not subscribed to Jailbreak, you cannot be in this giveaway if you were so inclined. But the point of showing you that channel is I've shown people how to do everything. Filter water, store food, get the right backpack, make your own bug out bag, etc. But a lot of people ask me about gold and silver. Now, I was going to have a couple of well-known truthers come on who also sell gold and silver. But believe it or not, I couldn't get along with them, so I didn't do it. So I just reached back in my Rolodex and I brought up Colin Plume. If you want to store gold and silver, I'm not talking stockpiling it, I'm saying enough so that when they finally break the dollar and shut down their entire consumer system, you're not going to have any food, water, banks, paper money, etc. If you don't have physical gold and silver, you better have lead. At any rate, if you don't want to watch this, don't watch it. But a lot of subscribers ask for it. So here's Colin Plume. YouTube, it's Ritchie from Boston. Today is the 19th of February in the year 2020, and I am joined once again by Colin Plume from Noble Gold. And Colin is awake, even though he has an infant on his arms from 5 till bedtime, I guess, huh? And you still look happy, man. That's amazing to me.
It's an amazing time. Yeah, no, things are good. Family's good. Can't no complaints here, and yeah, it's a real blessing. Thank you. Thanks, Richie.
I mean, dude, last month, this month, you literally look genuinely happy. So that is awesome. That is totally awesome.
Yeah, well, gold starting to move a little bit. Obviously, it's starting to move in the direction that we all thought, and it's. I think that there's definitely more room for growth, but it's definitely an interesting time in terms of the metals market. And the unfortunate thing is that you have this pandemic, you have the corona, the C virus, and people don't realize that how many industries are being affected and how this is going to potentially put us into a recession. When you talk about China, all the industries that make products that we use on a day-to-day basis, from all the different supplies, toys, you name the list, and that whole flood of those items is basically shut down. Then you talk about the hospitality. Obviously, travel is down considerably, and the true numbers for hospitality will come out in the first quarter. But this kind of pandemic is something that is going to have some shockwaves to our economy. And yet, we've seen the stock market at all-time high. We've seen some great numbers, but obviously the trickle effect of when this will kick into the economy, it has to have a negative effect on the economy and growth.
I mean, this is shutting down even medications, antibiotics. I just found out the numbers for antibiotics and such were like 97% made in China.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. That's totally insane. And you're saying the trickle-down effect, meaning everything's stable right now because it doesn't happen instantaneously. This is going to start. This is going to start showing itself in the not too near future. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's you need to have a few quarters of negative growth to actually be called a recession. And my prediction is that we're going to start to see those things come down the pipe, quarter 2, quarter 3 of this year. And the Fed's already alluded that, and there's a Fed meeting today, but they basically said that, and anytime they see any kind of major slowdown, their reaction, Ritchie, is what do? We just expand the money supply. Basically, they're saying quantitative easing without saying quantitative easing. And the last time we saw Q1, Q2, Q3, which is after 2008, the collapse, gold, skyrocketed, silver skyrocketed. So the Fed is alluding that they're going to be expanding the money supply. They've also alluded that they're going to lower interest rates, and we already have negative interest rates in many parts of the world. I mean, obviously, anyone that has any money in a savings account, it's laughable to make a 0.25%, on your money in the bank when the bank's going out and they're lending that money 10, 15 times and getting a great return. So everything is moving into the direction of they're just going to expand the money supply, increase inflation, and that's going to be great for, stable investments like gold. Palladium has obviously skyrocketed already. And, I really think that silver is still really a great investment vehicle for people that haven't looked at it in a while. And then you're looking at all the cryptos are reacting positively. I mean, you have Bitcoin, you have Ethereum, you have Ripple. I mean, all of these cryptos have reacted really positively to this news because people want to get away from the dollar. They realize that the dollar is destined to fail. And so that's why we're seeing this move towards these alternative type investments.
The other thing with this pandemic, and this is something that we predicted before this entire thing even broke loose, was in order to get rid of the physical dollar and move everybody into a digital one world type currency, whatever it is, was to make people afraid of the money. The pandemic is perfect for this because China's already scrubbing not like the gangsters back home do, but they're scrubbing the money and everything so that people don't actually get sick from physically touching it. It's going to push everybody into Ethereum, Bitcoin, etc. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's to have you're 100% right. I mean, it's just, let's just talk about, cleanliness and disease. I mean, obviously these currencies, you don't have to put them in your wallet. They're transacted like a digit. They're basically like, if for someone that doesn't understand how the transaction works, it's basically like doing your own bank wire. That's in essence what it is. You have a digit, you have a code with numbers and digits, and you plug it into the system, whatever transaction system you use, and then it sends it to the other part, the third party that you want the money to go to. And that's the beauty behind these digital currencies. And I think that when you look at Bitcoin is a great example right now, because with this recent run up in Bitcoin, you don't have the fair weather investors that we had in the last run up 3 years ago. Actually, if you look at the studies, the money moving into Bitcoin right now is institutional money. It's not the retail investor like you and I 3 years ago that said, oh, Bitcoin's at 2,000 and they see it going up to 20,000 and they were just jumping in. The investor in Bitcoin today is JP Morgan, Schwab, the banks, all these big institutions buying it. They're either creating funds of it or they're using it for themselves. They're also doing mining. So the nice thing about what's happening right now, very similar to what's happening with gold, how the central banks are buying a lot of gold and increasing their holdings. The holdings in Bitcoin are actually institutional investors. So I think that this run-up is unusual. It's not as frothy as it was last time. And I think that we really see a stability in that market. And so we've seen a lot of people that have acquired Bitcoin from us. I've had a lot of investors that bought gold from us, and now they're buying Bitcoin in their IRA. And, for people that aren't aware, you can buy Bitcoin in your IRA. If it goes, let's say it doubles to 20 or 30 or 40, 50,000, you can sell it in your IRA and it's all tax deferred, which is the real benefit of buying stuff in your IRA, is that you get that tax vehicle. Whereas if you buy it outside of the IRA and it doubles or triples, guess who comes knocking at your doors? Uncle Sam, and he wants 50% of that profit. If you do it in the IRA, you don't have to pay that profit until you retire down the road, and hopefully it'll be at a much lower rate. So for people that want to get into Bitcoin, want to kind of test the waters a little bit, and listen, it's I have friends ask me about it. I've had a lot of family members buy Bitcoin from us, and they say, well, what's the risk level on Bitcoin? And 3 years ago, if someone asked me, and this is point blank, I would say the risk level on Bitcoin is probably a 9.5. I think right now it's probably down to about an 8.5. I think it's the security in Bitcoin is much higher. Now, could it drop down again? Of course. But I think there's a lot more stability in it today. There's a lot more people using it, transacting with it. Overstock.com, the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, there's all these institutions that are taking cryptocurrencies now. So I think that level of is this thing going to go away? That whole premise, I think that whole premise is basically gone. I don't know. Do people ever give you donations through any cryptos, Richie?
I don't have any avenue for them to do so. They've offered it before, and I've declined because I kind of thought it was going to be a fad, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think what you're thinking is abnormal. I think that's like what a lot of people thought. And even when we started offering in IRAs 4 years ago, we didn't know how long it would last, and we would basically tell people like, listen, this is a risky thing. But it seems to be sort of shifting a little bit now, and so it'll be interesting. There's also, not to go too much into it, but there's a fork coming up in Bitcoin in the next few months that could help the price also. So there's definitely some highlights for the cryptos and for gold coming up here in the future.
Let me ask you this: when Bitcoin first showed up, I was under the impression that there was just a fixed amount. There was only a certain amount of it, and that was it. Does that still stand true?
That, for the last thing that I read about it, it looks like that's going to stay accurate. And the mining of Bitcoin has slowed down. I think that what you're saying is 100% true, and that the reason Bitcoin always was one of the more desirable of the cryptocurrencies is because it had the similar element like gold, where that there was a finite amount. Exactly, yeah, a fixed amount of those. And that's obviously very appealing, where if you look at Ethereum or some of the other ones, they just keep creating those tokens over and over, and there's no limit to that. So yeah, I think the number is like 40 million. If I don't
that sounds right.
Yeah, I think and then I think as of now they've mined like 22 or 23 million that are out there. And the good thing about it is you have these diehards who are they're holding forever. These people that bought it at 1,000 or 2,000, they're gonna wait until it hits 100,000. I mean, there's a lot of people out. We have clients that just until it hits 100,000, I'm not even looking at it. It's not even on my radar. And if I pass away, it'll pass my kids in my IRA, and then they'll get the advantage of it. So there's really a movement behind this kind of way of doing transacting. And I also think that in a day where inflation is so rampant, it's nice to have something that can't just be manipulated by the U.S. government or the Chinese government or whomever, or a shady dictator in some country that just kind of inflates the currency for his own benefit. This thing it's not controlled by one person or one entity, and so the market sort of dictates the value of it. And I think that freedom, which is something that you always talk about on your show, is really really appealing. Because I think everybody likes that.
I can't help but notice that with everything that's happened in just 2020, we're only not even 2 months in, and so much has happened in this year so far.
Yeah.
If the dollar were to collapse, it's not going to be clean. It's going to be ugly. There's going to be a big empty area. And the number one thing, I mean, even after showing people your phenomenal article last month on you can't eat gold, I still got smoked in the comments. Oh, here's the chapter in the Bible, etc. And I'm like, they're talking about kings and bankers and people that built their entire existence on piles of gold. I'm talking about people getting gold and silver to transition from, God forbid, if something were to occur and the dollar is no longer viable, you need something, because all your only alternative left. If you don't have gold, silver, palladium, something to trade with someone else, all you've got left is lead. And who wants to go that route? You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously, when push comes to shove.
Yeah, and I think like when you talk about the C virus, you look at like people in China. Let's say you want to leave China to go to somewhere else, and you want to take some of your liquid wealth. I know the people in China understand the value of gold. They know it's indestructible. So if they want to flee, they take the gold that they have and they go anywhere. And I mean, you could put $1 million of gold in a shoebox, so you can take a lot of wealth with you quickly. And you have it on your person. Obviously, with Bitcoin, it's those are just digits, so that's easy to move. So I think that having that availability to have some liquid wealth either in your hands or the availability to access to it away from the banks, because people forget, after 9/11, the bank shut down, the stock market shut down for 5 days. And, that was the longest shutdown since, I don't even know, before the Great Depression, I believe. And you look at that kind of move when you have a big institution shutting down. Obviously, the stock market collapsed after that. But the idea that you can't get access to your money, because once it's shut down, you're done. And if you have all of your wealth tied up in mutual funds and whatever, when that stock market opens up again, your nest egg is going to be devastated. To have something like gold that is independent of that, and people that own gold and silver could trade and barter with gold, and that market was still moving because it's a physical market and it wasn't affected by the stock market the same way. It's good to have options. It's good to be diversified, and it's good to be. I think the thing that you always talk about on your show, Richie, is just kind of being prepared. And I know that you're prepared, and you're ready to go. If anything were to happen, you can go at the drop of a hat. And I think that more people that do that, they sleep kind of better at night. They feel more comfortable. And so, we just provide some options that I think give people that security, which a lot of people really, really enjoy and they really like.
A lot of people that want to go for gold as opposed to silver. Silver is great because talking to guys like yourself and other people that are what I would call experts in this field, silver has been held down forever, and it's not going to stay that way.
Yeah.
They're using it in so many new technologies that are on the cusp of breaking loose, like batteries, for instance. I was telling my dad about that, what you were telling me the last month about the batteries.
Yeah, it's a fascinating use for silver. And that's the thing, is the uses. I mean, all the medical uses for silver, if we wouldn't even have enough time to talk about all of them. I mean, literally, they're just, in the dressings that they use when you go to the hospital, the linings, they all use silver. I think it's something that over time, it's just the amount that is necessary to fulfill all of these needs is just going to be overwhelming. And then that's when you'll really see kind of the price go up. And I know that, the other thing about silver that people don't realize is that when miners come in to mine, this is just a little kind of gold and silver nugget, so to speak. When they go to mine metal, silver is always the byproduct of the other metals that they're mining. So rarely do you have a mine that just is mining for silver. They're usually mining for gold, palladium, other metals, and then the silver, they find silver, and it's a byproduct. So when you look at that just premise, and you have all of these uses, and you realize that, mining until 2 years ago was down. I mean, from 2011 to 2017, mining was just decimated. I mean, the mining companies were not mining; they were not growing at all. So you have all this backlog of metals that weren't mined, that they just didn't have enough money to keep that industry going. If we see a surge, I guarantee that there will be a shortage of silver. We've seen it before. We saw it in 2010. So these things are going to push the metal price up. And I'm very confident that, over the next 5 to 7 years, we'll see silver break, the $50 mark where it was at before. And I wouldn't be surprised if it goes much higher than that.
When people want to invest in gold and silver for that exact reason, I tell them if you can afford ounces, that's phenomenal. And I'm talking gold. But as far as bartering, trading, etc., do you think it's a terrible idea to buy 10th ounces of gold?
No, absolutely not. No, we have a lot of clients who do that. I think what people do is, if they do, like what we typically see people do, is they'll get some 1 ounce or maybe larger bars, and then they'll get some gold for like bartering and trading. So they'll get some smaller pieces, 10 ounce, quarter ounce, and then they'll get some silver. As long as you have a kind of a basket, and our staff, they're really well versed in all the products, so they can really go through all of them. And there's the quarter ounce and 1/10 ounce gold American Eagles are very popular, very beautiful coins, and we sell a tremendous amount of those. And then a lot of these 5 and 10 ounce silver bars and coins are really popular right now. The America the Beautiful coin, which I think we talked about last time, is really just flying off the shelves because we have such an unbelievable price. The U.S. Mint sells it for $150. We're like almost 30% lower than the U.S. Mint price on that coin. So there's a lot of really cool options out there right now, and I think for anyone that's first time getting into this, there's nothing like getting that first delivery of gold and silver at your home. It's like nothing else, and I think it creates a buzz with you and your family and grandkids and kids, and I think it just becomes a lifelong obsession with the metal.
It's not a terrible addiction either. And you said last month that you had already started it for the twins, correct? All three, but the twins specifically.
Oh yeah, all the kids. Yeah, they have medals and
best dad ever.
Yeah, I mean the key at this age is just try to keep it so they don't put it in their mouth. I mean that's really my number one goal at this point. So
well, that's funny because the number one comment I get from subscribers whenever you bring up disease or anything is colloidal silver.
Yeah, colloidal silver.
I don't
absolutely.
know how to make it, but some people swear by it, man. So I
Yeah.
don't know. It's just strange that you said that.
Talk about. I don't know if we talked about the blue bloods, but they talk about when they used to have silver plating, and then people had so much silver in their cutlery and everything that their skin would start to turn blue, and that's why they called them blue bloods. But it ended up that blue tint really ended up helping them because that silver protected them against all the disease that was rampant during those times. So the benefits of silver, colloidal silver is absolutely something that people should look into.
Really? So you agree with that?
Absolutely.
No kidding.
Absolutely.
I see. I don't know how to make it, and I've had so many people send it. I've posted it before, and then I got smoked in the comments, like that's not the right way, etc. Which does...
Oh yeah, I'm not going to get into the ways that you should use it,
right.
But there are ways to use it out there that I think are safe, and I think the benefits of it are, they have sprays of it. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to use it. We don't do anything like that. We focus on everything for the investment, but. I think it's a good time, kind of wrap up, Ritchie. People are looking at their taxes right now. They're getting their statements from last year. Probably their accounts are up, but if they're not diversified, if they don't have some other investments, they're not really protected. And if they want to learn about what we do, give us a call at Noble Gold Investments. Get the free guides. We have gold and silver guides. We have guides on cryptocurrencies if you want to learn about Bitcoin. Just give us a call. All the information is free. Everyone here will be happy to talk to you and answer any questions. And, we're really here as a resource to educate people on, all this alternative investments.
And you can explain and break down all the cryptocurrencies because when it first came out, I was really harsh. I was like, this is from the Bible, and it turns out I might have been wrong or just misinformed. I do that. I shoot from the hip too often.
I don't think at when it was so early, I think it was good to be caught. Like I don't think your advice of telling people that this could vanish because there's 2,100 cryptocurrencies. There's cryptocurrencies that have failed and gone away. There is cryptocurrencies that were fraud. That did happen. I mean, there are people that invested in a cryptocurrency and their money got wiped away. So I'm not saying what you did. I think you're being cautious. You're a cautious person. You try to give people advice through things that you understand and know. And I don't think being cautious is a bad thing. I just think in the last 6 to 12 months, I just think the dynamic has changed. And I think it's a little bit safe. There's still risk involved, but I think it's a little bit safer than when it was, 4 or 5 years ago. Obviously it came around. Bitcoin was launched in 2009, and so as time goes on and it becomes more accepted and the banks are buying it, I think it just becomes more of something that people should look at.
I think people are worried about cryptocurrency and what you just said. Banks are buying it. JP Morgan, They're thinking this is going to be the same thing all over again. They're going to move in just like they did on the Fed and then manipulate things. Is that going to be a possibility, or is that not doable?
I don't think that's. I don't think that's. I mean, the only thing, and I don't want to put fear into people in this premise, but I guess the only thing that could happen is if, let's say, they bought so much of it, which I think would be hard because really it's, as you said, there's a limited supply. It's like even when China and Russia wants to buy more gold, it's hard for them to buy more gold because there's only so much of it out there. The same thing with Bitcoin. I guess the only thing that those central bank or those companies could do is, let's say there was a big run up, they could sell a ton of it on the market and then bring the price down. That would be the only way that I think that they could manipulate those currencies. But I, based on the numbers that I've seen, I don't think any of those institutions have been able to buy enough to be able to do that, because a lot of, like I was saying, a lot of people are holding it forever. They're not selling it. So I think a lot of the early adopters, people are in they're gonna hold it till it hits 100 or 200,000, or they may never sell. So I think. And I'll tell you, those people are definitely not selling it to J.P. Morgan.
Right? Yeah, that's a fact. That's a
those
fact.
are the last people that are selling it to them. So I think it's relatively safe in terms of that, kind of manipulation tactic.
And if people want to call you, you guys can explain it all to them.
Absolutely.
Obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. And they can trade it. And, people. The one question people say, well, what if it goes from 10,000 to 50,000? Like, I'm stuck. You're not stuck. The day it hits 50,000, you can liquidate it that day and go back into cash. So you have your 5x return. You put the money back into cash. You can go into gold or other investments.
That's what I would do. Turn it into precious metal.
Yeah, a lot of people have done that, especially in the recent run-up. There was a lot of people that bought it from us when it hit like 3,700. It hit 10,000. A lot of them are selling. Not a lot of them, but a decent percentage are selling. And now they're moving into gold because they see, the stability in gold. So, yeah, it's completely flexible.
Gold is gold is gold. It always is. It's just crazy. It's amazing. Yeah. It amazes me. I mean, I'm sure this has run through your mind at some point, that the entire Earth, everyone on it, everything runs based off of a rock. Mm-hmm. It's not even a very attractive rock when you first find gold either. You know what I mean? It just amazes me, and we're still here. We're still here.
Yeah. 5,000 years. I mean, it's still,
crazy, man.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. But you need to have a common denominator. That's the thing. That's the beauty behind it. And the more people distrust paper money, the more they distrust fiat money, and they should, because there's only been two that have survived for the last 200 years, the dollar and the pound. Everything else has been wiped away. So that, as long as that distrust continues, then having some gold and silver makes a lot of sense.
That's crazy. All right, brother. Anything else you need to share before I let you off the hook?
No. Check us out, Noble Gold Investments. The information's free, and looking forward to talking to everybody.
Links are in the comments, pinned there. You can't miss him. Colin's a regular dude, just like he looks right now. So I'm happy for you. I might bump into you while I'm on the road. It's hard to tell, but I appreciate you changing your schedule around to make this happen early for me, brother.
Absolutely. Anytime, Richie. Thanks so much.
All right, man. Ritchie from Boston, Colin Plume from Noble Gold. All the links will be pinned in the description below, and we are out.